Welcome to Lab 4.1. In this lab, we are going to learn how to make your PHP program talk with MySQL database. And using this PHP program, we are going to insert records into the table that we are going to create in MySQL database. And we will also write a piece of code that will retrieve the values out of the table. In order to do all these things, the first thing is you need to go to XAMPP and start the both servers, Apache service and the MySQL service. So we go to the exam. Okay, exam. I have stored this exam in the C colon. So I'm going here and I'm going to click on the exam control. Now the exam control should be running like this. It is running. Okay. The next thing what we have to do is go to the htdocs, create a folder for -1 lab 4.1. Okay, so we go to the htdocs. Okay, htdocs and create 4.1. So create a folder called as lab 4-1. Okay, so we have this here, and now you will go to the Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE. But I'm going to use NetBeans because I have some installation issues with VS Code. So I'm going to click on a new project, okay? And then I'm going to say PHP application. Then I am going to store it inside lab 4 that we have just created. So lab 4.1 and open. And then I'm going to name it as products. The project name is products. Okay. And this is how I am going to run it. This is the run project URL. Okay. So click on next. Okay. This is important. This is very important. Take a picture if you want. Okay. So you don't get confused later on. Click on next and then finish. The project is created. Okay. The project is created. Now, let us close all the files so that you don't get distracted. Now we have our project ready with this no source files inside it. Okay, this is the one that we have created. This is the one that I have created already. Okay, just to make sure that all things are running properly. So I will recreate this with you. Okay, so we go back to the manual. We are set. We are done till here. The next thing is we are going to see how to make a connection, how to write an insert function, and how to write a retrieve function. For these things to work, the first of all, you have to create the lab for database, and inside it, we are going to create a table called as products. So I am going to now go to the PHP MyAdmin. So how do we go to the PHP MyAdmin? Beside MySQL, you have admin. So we go here. Okay, so this is already open. I click on new lab 4. Okay, lab 4 DB. And then I click on the create. What is the name of the table? Products table. And then we click on create. It needs to have 4 columns: ID, description, price, and quantity. And ID is going to be a primary key and varchar, and they are all not null. Okay, so PID, description, PID and description, and then we have PID and description, and then we have something called as price and quantity. PID is going to be integer and it is going to be the primary key. Okay, go. And auto increment. Okay. Okay, and then description is going to be varchar. Length is going to be 50. Price is going to be double, and quantity is going to be the integer value. Okay, and we don't want to have not null values inside it. Save. Okay, so we have this done. Yeah, so now let's have our program run. So we are done up to this place. Okay, it's okay. It's okay to have it not null or null. It's okay at this point of time. Hmm. The default is none, and okay, we need to have all this as no, no, no here. So what will you do? So let's go there again, and we don't want it to have null. So I can just click on this and click on change, and here uncheck this. That's it. And select the third column, change, and make it as null. Save, and click on quantity and click on change, and then just make it as unchecked for this one. Save, and you have it like this, and this is how we want, right? Null should be no and default should be none. No and none. Done. Okay, so we are done with the database creation and the table creation. Now we need to work on the PHP part. So girls, like we have done with the MySQL setup, database and table setup is done. Now we need to work on the PHP program. Now let's understand how our PHP programs will look like and what do we need it. So here is a class diagram. It means we are going to have two files. One is called as dbconfig, another one is called as database. These are the .php files. These are going to be the .php files. dbconfig file is, that we need the dbconfig file to connect our to make the database connection. So we need to have a server name, username, passcode, and DB, and then the constructor for the DB config. Let's quickly create the DB config. So we go here and click on the source file, or you can just click on the new file and add a new file. The type of the file is going to be PHP files. So next, and the name is going to be what? The name is going to be dbconfig. Please be careful with the capitalizations and the spellings. So dbconfig, dbconfig. Inside products, inside lab 4-1 dbconfig.php. Very good. We're done. Okay, so in this place, what do we need to have? We need to have this data. Okay, so keeping it like this for, quick checkup. So, okay, so add these four pieces of information. So start typing. Okay, just start typing. So I have typed this already, so I'm trying to copy paste, but you will type 4.1 because I tested this one already to save time. Okay. Just give me so okay, got it. Okay, so we just copy this db config, make sure the file names are same, no spelling mistakes, lab db4. Okay, or this is the name of, this is going to be the name of the database that you have created, and username is always going to be root and server name is always going to be localhost. Password is empty, so we just have an empty password here. Then you save it. This file is going to be used to make a connection. So we first of all create the dbconfig.php. Done with this, now let's see what to do. Now create a database .php file. So I am going to copy this name. So click on the source project. In Visual Studio Code, just you're going to add a new PHP file. Okay. So that's pretty easier. Now click and new file, and it's going to be PHP file. And the name is going to be this. You're going to store it inside 4-1 and then finish. Okay, so here you are going to add 4 functions. The constructor, the DB connect, which is used to connect your database program by using the DB config to connect it with the database. Then you're going to insert and retrieve. So these 4 functions will go inside the database dot PHP. So we are now going to work on database.php. So database.php is here. Okay, so it needs a simple simple reference or require function to the DB config, and then we will extend the database, this program, this file with the database config one. So we need to have simple declarations. Okay, simple declarations. These are the declarations. And make our database file, extend the DB config. Okay, and bring the DB config inside our program by using require, and declare a variable called as connection database name, host name, same like this. Okay, username and passcode. And then the function called as constructor. Okay, this is the constructor. And then we have created the object to access the database configuration. This is the object to access the DB config. And then using this object, we are sending the database name, server name, username, and the passcode from the database. Okay, and the parameter is going to be null. Done with this, then add a DB connect method. The DB connect method is going to connect this program, DB database program, with the config, and then with the config file, and then ultimately the database. So we have DB config and host name, username, password sent to it that we have declared here. Okay, so we have declared all these things here. So we are going to send it from the object of database. This refers to the current object, and the current object here in this case is the database object. Okay, so then we check if the connection, if there is any problem with the connection, then this function returns, MySQLi returns. If the connection is done, it will create a connection and store it inside the connection variable. Okay. If there is a problem in making the connection, database connection, then it will return an error number. And then we catch this error number, and then we send a message called as cannot connect to the database. If there is no problem, it means the connection was done successfully, and then we return true. Okay. We additionally catch any of the database exception by using the get message from the exception class. Okay. Done with this, and now let's see what we have to do. We have to insert. So this is the function to insert. What are we doing here in the insert function? We are writing public function insert because we need to insert 4 values: PID, description, price, and quantity. So we want to send this send with this insert method these 4 values. So we are declaring 4 parameters. Then we are putting the try block, and inside the try block, we are declaring an SQL variable to hold the insert query. This is the simple SQL insert query, wherein we are trying to insert 4 values into the product table. Okay. And these 4 values, question marks, refers to the 4 parameters here. So first question mark will use PID. second question mark, description, the third question mark, price, fourth question mark, quantity. And then we have to use the connection variable to prepare the SQL query. Okay, so we do this and then we store it inside the statement variable. Then we bind the parameters of the statement variable, okay, with the four parameters. PID is type integer. If you remember in the database, we selected PID as the integer. The description was varchar, which is nothing but string. Price was double, so we wrote D here, and quantity was integer again, so we wrote integer. So the bind param is now going to bind these four parameters with the database columns of these types, and then we execute the statement. If the statement executes correctly, if the SQL statement executes correctly, it will return true, else it will return false. Okay, so if there is any problem while doing this, then we catch the exception and we throw the message with this catch. Done. So let's do this insert function. So let's write this insert function in the database file. Okay, so okay, then we go here and we need to close this function. So I am giving the curly closing bracket. Okay, and then, okay, this. Okay, so why is it always coming? Because I did not close this file. Starting here, there is no close here. So, okay, let's provide it. Okay, this is the close for it. Okay, done. So we are done with the insert. Again, it is coming. Let's see later. No problem. Now, okay, let's go back to the manual. It is saying add the retrieve function now. Now let us understand the retrieve function. What are we doing in the retrieve function? We are writing a function called as retrieve and then passing an ID as a parameter, integer value to it. And then we are writing the SQL statement select star from products where ID is the one that the user will give it here. So we write it here, right? So anytime we are interacting with the database, we are going to use the try block. So we are creating the SQL query inside the try block. Then we are going to create the statement to create the statement for this SQL query. Okay. And using the connection object, we are preparing the SQL to be executed. Then we use the bind parameter for binding this, product ID or integer value with the type of field inside the table, and the type of PID inside the table is integer. So we wrote integer I here. Then we execute. Okay. After executing, we get the results. We store the results inside the result variable. The return type of execute method is an associative array. So the result is an associative array. In order to take out the rows out of this associated array, we need to use the fetch underscore assoc method, which retrieves the row. Okay, and then we store it inside the row variable. Now, this row is actually going to return all the fields from the product table. But in the display, we want to display it. But in the program output, we want to display them as field names, the one that comes from PID, description, and price and quantity. So we are going to say dollar row of PID. So if you remember, this is like a key of our associative array. So we are going to print the product ID, then the description, then the price, and then the quantity. Okay, and then we are putting the break line. If there is any problem in doing all this process with the database, and we have a catch for it. Okay, so now let's write this function inside the program. So here, so we have it here. This is the catch. Okay, we need to have this. Okay, so Done. Okay, what does it say? Unexpected public. Okay. Okay, save. And we have to close this. Okay, so I'm closing it here. Okay. And here, done. Okay. So let's go back to the manual. Our program is ready till here. Now testing. The testing has to be done by including an index.php file. Okay, so our index.php file. Now let's go and add a new file called as PHP file and name it as index. Okay, make sure that you are storing it in the proper project folder inside lab 4.1. Then we click on finish. Okay, so here our file is ready. What are we supposed to write inside it is given here already. Inside index.php include a database file and create an object and call the DB connect. Okay, how do we do that? We create index.php file and we include the database file .php by using include once, and then we create an object obj1 is equal to new database file, and then we call the DB connect function using this object. So this is what we have to do now. So let's go to the IDE and quickly type that data. Okay, done here. Okay, let's see what's now next required. Okay, just trying to run this right now. Okay, let's close this question mark in this. Okay, done. Okay, so if you want to see if it is working, you will right click on the index file and run this file. Okay, we don't have anything now, but we don't see any error now. It means the program is running. Now let's make it more readable. So go to the next step. Insert data by calling insert function. How do we call the insert function? The name of the object, what we have created here, obj1 dot insert, and then insert some values inside this and execute by calling the insert function. When this insert is done successfully, okay, it will return a Boolean true value. If it returns true, we are going to store it inside result. And if you are checking if this result is true, if this variable is holding a true value, echo data inserted, else insertion failed. Okay. Now let's do this part of work. So we go back to the net IDE. In your case, it is going to be Visual Studio Code. So go back to the Visual Studio Code and type this code. Okay, done. Okay, insertion failed. I will write on insertion failed. Okay, now save this. Okay, our database. Let's go and check the database. Our database is DB lab 4 DB products table. Product table is empty. We don't have anything here. Now let's send some values from the program. So we are inserting 101 smartwatch, and this is the value and price, and this is the quantity. Now save, right click on the index file and then run. Data inserted. Let's check if it is inserted correctly. Yes, it's inserted. 101 smartwatch. Price is this and quantity is 4. Let's do it again. Let's insert some more value. So I'm going to insert 2. Just make sure, because we declared PID as a primary key, it will not allow you to enter the duplicate value. So just give a different value for the integer. Okay. So 25 and 4. and we can have it as one. Save, right click, run. Data inserted. Quickly check it. So yeah, we have two values here. Done. Now let's see what is the next thing we are supposed to do. We are supposed to run it. We saw running, and we saw this, data inserted message. Now let's call the retrieve function. How to call the retrieve function? We need to create an object. We have an object already, and then just call the retrieve method to retrieve the method. Retrieve the values for 101. But what is it showing? It's showing that make sure to comment the insertion to avoid primary key duplicate error when testing. Okay. Now what we are going to do is go here and go to the IDE and add one extra line of code. Okay. So, because we have already now, okay, if I try to run this, I have to make sure that I'm not inserting this 102 again. Because if I run it, it will insert 102 again and it will give me error because primary key cannot allow two times inserting 102. So I'm just, commenting it out. Or you can do one thing if you don't want to comment, just change, make sure that you change. Okay. Now let's right click and run. So data inserted, yeah, one record 103 is inserted, and then we wanted to retrieve 101, right? So we retrieve 101. The details about 101 is retrieved. Okay, this is how the program is running. Okay, so we have 101 smartwatch. Okay, can we try to comment out and just have the retrieve work. So commenting this, and then I'm trying to get the value for product ID 103 and then select and run. You see 103 smart AC, we got the values from the table. So this program is actually inserting some values into the table and retrieving some values from the table. Okay, now what is the next thing that we are supposed to do here? Okay, you are supposed to insert 5 more data records, okay, and post your solution here. Okay, so what are you going to do now? Go to the index file, have this done 5 times. That's it. You might use a while loop if you want, or just have it 5 records inserted from from the index file multiple times. That's it. Okay. Now, the other one, practice what you have to do is update the database to add a retrieve all function and display all the data from the database. So, the next thing what you're going to do is you're going to the dbconfig database, sorry, you're going to go to the database file and you're going to add one more function called as public function retrieve all, and then don't pass anything here, and then have select star from products, and then don't have where. Okay, it will collect all the values and put it in the statement, and then have a loop to get all the records from the associative array, which is returned by the get results, or a function which can get you all the values out of the SQL statement after executing it, and then display it here. So now you need to work on retrieve all and a simple insert 5 times. Okay, so this will make the activity for 4.1, question number 2. Okay, and the additional task, this is very interesting. You are just, going to add some HTML, create an HTML table and display the return values in a form of a table here. Okay. So this is what you have to complete. A quick recap of what all we have done here is we have created, 3 files. Okay. The first thing what you have to do is create a dbconfig file, declare the server name, okay, declare the username variable, declare the password variable, and declare the database name and assign some values inside it. Localhost, it is going to be localhost always in testing, okay? And it is username is going to be root always, password is empty, and the database name is the name of the database that you have created. So this dbconfig file is going to be same always. The connection needs only 4 pieces of information, and this 4 pieces of information will be there in your dbconfig file. This file is very important and we will reuse it when we want to make the connection. Okay, the connection must be there in every program which is trying to insert, update, delete, or create. Because without a connection, you cannot reach up to MySQL file. You cannot do any of this CRUD operation. Hence, we need to include the dbconfig file every time in all the programs wherein we are going to perform insertion, deletion, update, CRUD, all these files, all these operations. So we have created a database file to perform insert and retrieve operations. So we have one function for insert, we have one function for retrieve. Okay, now in order to make this insert work and retrieve work, we have to make our database program connect to MySQL, and that connection is provided by dbconfig. So we have included dbconfig here. Okay, then using the constructor, we pass the values of database name, server name, username, and passcode. And we use a function called as dbconnect, which will actually connect by using an MySQLi function, and it will use host name, username, password, and the database name. Okay, and then the connection is provided. We check the connection by running this function. Well, okay, we connect it, and if there is any problem, we catch the problem and we show the name of the error here. Okay, so if you are supposed to add, in 4.2 exercise, you are supposed to execute and add, update, and delete as well. So every program is every database connection program will have one thing for sure: dbconfig. The second thing is calling this dbconfig and the constructor and dbconnect. This is going to be same every time. Then later on, you will change insert according to your requirement, retrieve all, maybe update or create. So new things will come here, but this is going to be same number one. In the database, you are going to include require dbconfig, then extend your existing problem or a program with the dbconfig and then applying these things. This is always going to be the same. The next thing is here we will change, add or delete some more functions. Okay, so that is it for lab 4.1. I hope you understood and you can practice it quickly and do the exercise and upload it in the Blackboard. Thank you for watching.